welcome to a beautiful evening where we are all sat round the fire here at Safari Guide of the Year 2024. First things first, my name is Lauren and we are live right now with you all at Mondoro Safari Lodge and Villa here in Lalibela Game Reserve of South Africa. Now, I like to start the storytelling element with a little bit of a recap of today. Today was unbelievable. I started on the photographic safari with Tracy, and the photographic safari is very similar to a guided safari. However, there is that added element of complexity. You've got to think about your photographers, you've got to think about light, composition and positioning. It's not easy. Then we moved into the birding challenge, and my oh my, that was even more challenging. The finalists had to sit and look at pictures of birds, some which were obscured, and try to identify them. Then it moved on to their calls, and I can assure you it was a tense room. It was a very challenging morning and afternoon. However, after that we moved on to team building. Where do I start? We had 4 teams, yellow, red, green and blue. And I'm not quite sure what the aim was of the day, but what I can tell you is that all of my wonderful friends and colleagues here are not competitive at all. Not at all. None of them. It's wonderful. We bonded greatly. There was all sorts of things, including making art on the rocks, producing bouquets out of wild grasses and flowers, and decorating your vehicle, and then savaging each other's mascots. But that is all I'm going to say on the team building event, because that is not what it is about. Today was great, but tomorrow is going to be even better. Tomorrow is ARH. And you may be wondering, what is that? Well, I'm not going to be the one to tell you, because I do have someone who knows a lot more about that. Please allow me to welcome Mr. James Steyn, one of the esteemed judges. Hi, James. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
Very good,
Are
thank
you happy that you lost today?
I still think we won.
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic. Did the giraffe stay in one piece?
It lost a leg.
It lost a leg. I don't know what that was all about. Anyway, James, can you just explain to our viewers back home, what is ARH?
Sure, it stands for Advanced Rifle Handling, and it's a series of exercises that's created to test the rifle handling ability and accuracy of a field guide.
Wow. Okay, there you have it. And can you tell us, why is that important to being a field guide? Why do we have to practice that?
Sure, well, we carry firearms, but we work in a potentially dangerous environment, and it's very important from a safety point, as well as understanding how the firearm functions and how it works. So you've got to be well versed and practiced with the firearm to make sure that you maintain the safety.
Of course.
Yeah.
And lastly, can you just share, how can any sort of guide or a guide to be become better at that? How can they improve their skills and become exceptional?
It's just practice like anything else. It's time spent behind the rifle. You don't necessarily always have to fire live ammunition. You can do it with dry firing as well, what we call dry firing. But it's understanding that you need to get muscle memory, and that's achieved by handling the firearm as much as you possibly can.
And you are an expert at that. Are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Very much so. Yeah.
Very much so. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
great.
you, James.
Pleasure.
I am very much looking forward to tomorrow, but that's not why we're here right now. As you all know, we are here to listen to another story. And you've all listened to me talk about the beauty of storytelling, the importance, the art of storytelling, but we've not quite touched on the science of storytelling. And for those that don't know me, I am a big scientist. I have a strong academic background and I love science. Ultimately, I am a complete geek. So when it comes to storytelling, I want to know, what is the science behind that? And although we're just scratching the surface of the science behind storytelling, when you are listening to a story, it goes without saying your language processing center in your brain becomes activated, becomes very stimulated. No matter which language you speak, straight away, if you understand it, your brain becomes very activated there. But that is not all. When you listen to a very immersive story, a good story, a story that touches on all the senses from that person, immediately your sensory cortex becomes alive and that becomes stimulated. So that's 2 regions of the brain already firing. And then, if it's an even better story, full of action and drama and lots of verbs, your motor cortex becomes activated. And that's so far what we understand about science and storytelling to do with biology in the brain. So enough on that. I think it now is time for a storyteller that I am very much looking forward to. Please welcome Meintjes from Lalibela Game Reserve.
Well, first thing you got to know about me is I'm not much of a public speaker. So, if you don't mind, I'm just going to grab a chair. So it feels more like we are sitting around this fireplace. So, I knew a guide once who passed on a story to me. And it's a story I think a lot of guides can relate to at some time in their career. And one day he was on drive. It's been quite a wet season. And he got a call, or he heard a call on the radio. Someone asking for assistance, they'd gotten stuck. And most guides, begrudgingly, will tell you that that has happened to them. So no one replied. He felt sorry, and he headed over to go and help. What greeted him, however, was the vehicle stuck right next to a fence line. And if you know a game farm or game reserve, it's got electrical strands all alongside it, so they had obviously gone down this fence line, gotten stuck, and a herd of elephants happened to be walking by, probably within about a meter of them. The matriarch, massive ears open, and the rest of her herd moving behind her. She was obviously very scared, trying to protect everyone in her herd. And all we could do was just watch this unfold, because where he was, I couldn't get to, or this guide couldn't get to. This feeling. But they pushed on, and they probably got within about 30 meters, which is quite a distance, not able to be done with one tow rope to try and pull that vehicle out. You'd need two. So a plan was hatched. It had 2 guests on it. The vehicle trying to recover had 8 guests on it. He walked over to the cruiser. Have you ponchos? Everything was inside there. The vehicle was still stuck. So the tow ropes were attached with a D-shackle, a hard bit of metal to try and hold them together. One of the trackers said, there's a bull elephant, often find bull elephants coming along trying to catch up. Sometimes 500 meters, sometimes a few kilometers behind. So this bull elephant was still in the distance, but getting closer. And they're working. Next moment, shouting erupts, saying, "The elephant is coming! It's coming!" And in the panic, the guests leap out of the vehicle and sprint up past, well, they leave the vehicle and they're running to the other vehicle now. Again, if you understand how these animals work, any sort of fast motion like that is going to draw attention. And that's what happened. That bull elephant, while it was just meandering along, saw these people running and just went directly at them. Now, it's one thing to face off a charge of a bull elephant, an animal that's weighing, and with guests running past you, is something I don't think any guide would want. So that guide managed to grab a guest, shout a command to stop the other, and with this elephant barreling towards him, what do you do? And he did all he could do. And he got up. Yay, yay, yay! Because that's what you do. And that elephant, when it stopped, the waft of musk, that smell that clings to a bull elephant. It's pervasive, it's strong, it's oily. When you smell it for the first time, you'll wrinkle your nose. If you close your eyes now, and I ask you to close your eyes now and think about the first time you've ever smelt a bull elephant in muss, and remember that. And that is what that guide was facing. That smell hitting him in the face. That elephant moved back, and moved behind a bush, and the guide and the two guests quickly moved back to the vehicle. Like I said, lucky there were only 8 in that car, because there was only space for 2 more. Probably wouldn't have been a problem if there were 10, because everyone would have just sat somewhere. And as they got in, that elephant came again. Straight back for them now. But he had the advantage of being in a vehicle. So he started, revved. It's a scary thing. It is a scary thing. Something I think a lot of guides never want to have to deal with. But they've got to do it. Often in life you have no choice. And you know, guiding has it's got a funny way of leading you to a certain point in time in your life when you meet people that will impact you forever. And this young lady did impact me forever. She was 5 at the time when I met her. Should I say when this incident occurred? She was diagnosed with a disease called type 1 diabetes. And as guides, you know, renew every few years. It's always very basic. You have a low, if your blood sugar is very low, give some sugar. Very high, make sure that person gets their insulin. And it's a little bit more complicated than that. For this little girl and her family, when she was diagnosed that day, it was just a horrendous day for her family. They nearly lost their daughter that day on the way to hospital. And that week in the hospital following that was such a traumatic time for that little girl. Being in a space that she was unfamiliar with, being jabbed by needles constantly. By the way, she did have a phobia for needles. It still does, to my knowledge. Yeah. A lot happened that week. Something else that happened that week is for starters, her diet changed immediately. In the blink of an eye, like that she wanted any longer. Going to a birthday party, such a straightforward, enjoyable event. No longer enjoyable. She would stand with others, sing the song, have the cake. Now she's got to sing a song and eat something that a lot of the time tastes like cardboard. A simple thing like heading out with her family for an ice cream. We all take that for granted. It's a hot day. We want something nice. Those little pleasantries are denied. It's too hard to control. What you've got to understand with a type 1 diabetic is to try and maintain that sort of perfect level that we all just take for granted. Yeah, it's like trying to hit a moving target. AOH is difficult. Yeah, try hitting a target, running at you at 100 kilometers an hour, and then jumping left, right, left, right. Yeah, I don't think many of us would hit that target often. Anyway, sleep that we all take for granted. Something that also just, there's no reprieve from that condition. Because when a type 1 diabetic sleeps, they either have a high or they have a low. And if it's a high, that little girl gets woken up and she's got to get jabbed with a needle. And when she's woken up, she's accepting of that. Again, drawing a parallel to earlier, having to do something that you don't want to do, but it's got to get done. And I'm sure the parents don't want to be doing that either, but it's got to get done. But if you speak to that little girl today, she will tell you that she loves life. She will tell you that she loves where she lives, she loves her family, she's excited, and she's positive about life. Yeah. And as her father, she inspires me every day to do what needs to be done. So if you ever feel like you are not deserving to be somewhere, or something is difficult, give yourself the credit. Take courage, because that's what it is. It's being very scared of something and doing what's necessary anyway. And that's my story.
Wow, Ashley, I don't quite know how to follow on from that. That was truly beautiful in every way. Well done. On that note, that's now 4 of the finalists told their stories. So just 1 to go, and that is Mr. HJ. And that will take place tomorrow evening at the same time. So once again, we love having you here with us. It makes it complete. So please do join us tomorrow for our last storytelling. And until then, good night.